This is Robert Mardlacci of the Mindshare Learning Report, Canada's Learning and Technology e-magazine. And welcome to Mindshare TV, where we spotlight the innovators, connectors, and storytellers shaping the future of learning. Today's conversation takes a Canada-US lens on EdTech as we look ahead to 2026, what's changing, what's converging, and what education leaders need to pay attention to now and tomorrow. I'm thrilled to be joined by Lisa Schmucki, founder of edWeb and a fellow education media publisher who has had a front row seat to the evolution of EdTech for more than a decade. Lisa Schmucki, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Robert. Actually, I was thinking about this with EdTech because even before I founded edWeb, I worked for an educational film company that goes way back, and we were actually still selling VHS tapes back then when I started first working to them. So yeah, I would say I've been involved in EdTech for quite a while, more years than I would like to admit.
Well, kudos to you for your leadership and innovation, and we're thrilled with our partnership and looking forward to strengthening our partnership around the wonderful professional learning resources that you produce on a very regular basis, the webinars which we feature. You have a monthly calendar that we feature in our Mindshare report.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, some of the incredible topics. You are on point, with those laser-focused webinars. What drives your storytelling, if you will? And perhaps we could share, I'll pull it up while you're speaking,
Sure.
your latest calendar.
Oh, that would be great. I think the whole idea came from the fact that I wasn't originally in the classroom. I was never an educator in classrooms. I worked for educational publishing companies, and I saw all the resources and expert networks and everything that those organizations had. So when social networks first came along, I thought, well, let's create a network and maybe we can get these organizations who are creating the books and the services and the solutions to host. Came up with the idea of webinars for educators, because even back then, we talk about how fast technology is racing forward right now. We were just talking about that with AI, but it did seem even back then, 15 years ago, that things were moving forward pretty quickly, and we needed to help educators stay on top of. Oh, there we go. There's our calendar. Help educators stay on top of all of the topics that interest them or that they need to, for learning in the classroom, for supporting schools in every area. And in fact, we have evolved more from initially having a focus primarily on using an iPad, any of the very early steps with one-on-one, devices and all of that, to topics now around mental health, banning the technology now that we've gotten it in their hands, right?
Now, can we touch on that for a moment? Because I saw a LinkedIn post from a very notable EdTech leader who was with a very notable company and now is hung her shingle and talking about Utah and the fact that they are banning technology and minimizing screen time. At the end of the day, it has to be purposeful, right?
Yes.
You don't use technology for technology's sake, as we are using this platform to stream live our conversation. So love to get your perspective on that very issue where, mobile phones are being, banned. And one of the companies that was at the Early Winter Institute that I was at last week is focused on self-regulation and arming students with the skills to help them manage their use of technology. Thoughts?
Well, I think it fits into the bigger picture of that we don't really know well at scale what works. In the United States, education is managed by the states. There's 16,000 different school districts. And even with all the communication tools we have, I don't think for we've had any good systems for sharing information about what really works. And so when you introduce technology, you're just going to have the same issue as what works for reading instruction, what works for math instruction.
Right.
What is that device doing? So to me, a big problem is how do we find out what really works and how do we share that information at scale? And I'm actually quite happy that edWeb can play a role in that. Beginning January 1st, we tightened our requirements for our members getting a CE certificate, because somebody had asked me, like, how do you know the same question, how do you know what works? Right? How do you know what works? And I said,
Right.
well, you know
Fair.
that when educators complete a reflection document on what they do, and then they can tell us, what was the impact on their practice and on students and rate and provide ratings. And we now have that at an unprecedented scale, which then can be shared with AI. We can query the data to find out what they're saying about any particular topic. So I do think, I think we need to be able to learn what works at scale better than we've ever been able to do before.
Well said. And I believe the OECD has been a front runner in on a global stage addressing this very issue. And having just been recently at the BET conference,
Mm,
Andreas Schleicher was moderating one of the panels that I was invited to for the ministerial pre-conference gathering. And EdTech is on notice, and it needs to be purposeful. A
mhm,
study that I saw recently, there's a national initiative by one of our telcos that shows that students spending 5 hours on screen time versus 1 hour, there's
mm,
a dramatic increase in student performance
mm.
when you minimize your screen time.
Minimize the screen time.
Right. So, and they're chiming in with professional athletes and celebrities that are also kind of endorsing this because it has an addictive element to it. If I um, uh, gauged my screen time on a daily basis, like you would as well, in
Right.
what we do, it probably exceeds the maximum that these students are averaging, which is 5 hours. I am confident I spend more than 5 hours a day on screen time. I try to be purposeful and focused on, professional learning or for business purposes. But it is a bit excessive. But I also am playing hockey outdoors tonight
Yes.
in minus 10-degree temperature.
Oh, boy. That's
So
dedication.
it's about balance, right?
Right,
And
right.
and we talk about well-being, which is another focus of your wonderful webinars. You are very mindful. It's not just about EdTech. You cross the curriculum in K-12 and address some of the most um, poignant issues. And perhaps you can share some of the top priorities and focus that you have for this coming year that might be a little different, particularly around AI. And, you know,
Yeah,
question is, we were talking off air, is there going to be an AI bubble, as
yeah.
people talk about?
Um, well, I mean, the big we have data on a massive scale. We've had that for quite some time. We have 1 million educators in 185 countries around the world, and we have a lot of information about their role, where they are geographically, what professional learning topics they're interested in. But by just taking this step that we did January 1st, we issue CE certificates. When we issued 1 million of them last year for hours
Wow.
earned on edWeb. So we're talking about a massive amount of data and activity. And literally, with this one step in January to say, okay, well, if you're going to view the program, we need you to complete this short document that reflects on why you chose to watch the program, because their goals are always related to their own needs or a student need. So it's an
Right.
observational tool, how they think that's going to impact their practice and how they think it's going to help students and then a 5-star scale to rate the program. And we already in 1 month have over 60,000 plans completed. And we can slice and dice that information by their role, the
Incredible.
topic they watch, the geography where they are. We talked earlier about we can do that for Canada, and your
And
educators.
you have quite a
Uh,
number of Canadian
we do.
organizations, right?
Our number 2 country after the United States.
Hashtag honored.
Yes, right. So I mean, I think we're at the point where by taking one small step to collect this additional data, and I have to say, I have to give credit to the educators themselves, because we had to send out an announcement to everyone that they had an additional step that they were going to have to take to get the certificate, which it's all free. I always like to have to make sure everybody knows that watching our programs and earning those certificates is free. And I've just been amazed at, a few pushbacks on it, but for the most part, just diving in and completing those plans. And that little step is going to give us that tipping point, which is the qualitative information that goes with the data to understand what the importance is, what the impact is. So I
Cool.
am just thrilled, and I feel like I've got a fire hose and have to figure out all the different things that we can do with it.
So let's pivot for a moment here and look at some of the top trends that we uh, shared earlier this year in EdTech. And you know what I loved? I loved the webinar that you hosted for EdTech industry on how to optimize pilots. Everyone's doing pilots, but
Oh, right. Yes, that was a
right,
great one. Yep.
to be able to run a pilot
Hmm.
effectively
Yeah.
is not an easy task, right?
Hmm. Right.
And you nurtured that. And so here's something we came up with. We do this annually, and these are our top 10 trends that we shared for
Hmm.
2020. Are you seeing that okay?
I am. Yeah. Some of it's a little bit cut off, but I can mostly read it. Yeah.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. So, you know, obviously AI is very much in vogue. One of the interesting things that one of my takeaways from the BET conference, the
Hmm.
opening keynote, professor from Cambridge talked about the industrial revolution and equated it to the AI revolution at
Hmm.
10 times warp speed, if you will. And we don't talk about it in that way here in Canada. And I'm going to start to talk more about the sense of urgency
Mm.
because what was also mentioned is that 90% of the jobs will be disrupted in some way, not necessarily all
Mhm.
go away, but
Mhm.
you have to retool, if you will.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't want to see us have to deal with, uh, you know, situations like what happened in Detroit with the auto industry or Kodak or BlackBerry. There's lots of great examples of innovation that didn't adapt to the
Right.
changing times,
Right.
and you cease to be relevant.
Right.
Thoughts?
Well,
On the EdTech side, if I can chime in once more,
yeah.
uh, if edtechs aren't adapting, and the industry is huge, right? I don't know. I think there's like 12,000 edtechs globally, and in North America, there's probably 5,000 doing
Mhm.
business and growing.
Yeah.
Uh, AI companies are popping up all over the place. Uh, if you aren't aligned with, as I mentioned when Kathy and I were presenting that early, with an organization like a ClassLink to
Mhm.
be compliant and demonstrate that you are cyber safe, right? That
Mhm.
you've
Yeah.
done all the checks and balances, that you are in an ecosystem that's been um, peer reviewed, etc.
Mhm.
It's not easy to make it in this business today.
Well, and I think, I mean, I feel like we have a niche that I'm very thankful for. One is it's
Right.
professional. So we're
Right.
not developing technology for students,
Hmm.
and all the issues that get involved if you're developing EdTech solutions for students. So, we're restricted to that. And, we use technology, but our focus is really the human connection of connecting educators with each other for peer-to-peer learning and sharing information on topics. And I do know we'll never run out of
I love that.
topics. We'll never run out of topics, right? So, and we can find other ways to do that, other platforms, other whatever to serve that purpose. I think if you are a technology company,
Right.
and if you're developing a solution for students, I just think it's a very tough environment because in the United States, too, all the so many state laws, how do you, it's not, we don't have
Hmm.
and I have to say, I'm not quite sure in Canada whether you have national policies on everything as opposed to the provinces. But in
Right.
the United States, it can be very different from state to state. And so you don't have to it's not just keeping up with the tech, but you have to keep up with the state laws,
Right.
around the tech and
And the
how.
nuances around,
Yeah.
curriculum and assessments, and the complexity there
Yeah.
is massive. But as part of our top 10
Hmm.
trends here, personalized, adaptive professional learning is huge.
Yeah.
That's always been very much at the top of our list, and ethical AI, data privacy, and design. There are some really hot buttons.
Hmm.
Today, I was speaking with a company from the U.S. who's focused on data privacy and cybersecurity in an AI
Yeah.
fashion,
Yeah.
and they were very interested in coming up to Canada. So we are very mindful of the trends that
Hmm.
are taking place, and the credentialing that you do, and badging, and skills, to your point, not going away. And we're looking forward to building on that and building community with you, because it is about the human connection, and the title of my book, I might add. So
Oh, that's
you
correct.
know,
Yes, of course it is. Right.
right, being human, right,
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
age of AI. So I'm really looking forward to getting that off my to-do list in the next couple of months. It should be there. But
Well, and I think it's like how do we use the technology so that we're not just, sitting there focused on our phone and not paying attention, to other things around us, or being isolated and
right,
lonely or whatever because you're doing this. There's a great article in the New York Times and an op-ed piece about let the kids watch TV already. And I just spent the weekend with my 5-year-old grandson, and we watched Peanuts cartoons all weekend long.
fun, fun,
And he's always, sit on the couch with me. And so we're on the couch, both laughing over Snoopy and whatever. So that's a
right,
human connection, and we're creating a cultural reference point with each other. And again, I remember when our first
well,
TV came in the house, and it was one black and white TV, and we all
yeah,
had to sit around
same,
and watch the same show so that we have common,
right,
information and culture references. So I know when they say that the students, when they cut their screen time down, I'm presuming that they are spending that extra time, hopefully socially, like having conversations with other students, not just going off in a room by themselves.
excellent point. And being outdoors and
Mhm. Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
play. You
Yeah.
know, there's so much that's learned from play. When you think about play as kids, and we played outdoor hockey after school for hours. We'd
I
go,
bet.
and back in the day, when I was like 9, I get home, I grab my skates and my stick after dinner, and I go play for hours. And
Wow.
through play, you learned to, respect rules and communicate, and those durable skills, or those,
Right.
they talk about portrait of graduate. We have the 7 C's here.
Mhm.
Honing those skills
Mhm.
is not as easy today as it was back then because we didn't have the distractions that we have today, with social media and
Right.
fake. The amount of fake news out there is overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I think, I'm just happy that we use technology to foster human connections all around the world. We had one of our presenters to make some wonderful comment. How could you imagine that in 1 hour we could lift up so many educators all around the world just in 1 hour? So
Incredible.
that's what we're really happy to be able to do. We do 400 live presentations a year, and those live chats are a very important part, hundreds of educators around the world. So we're always trying to keep a focus on personal support. We do not use chatbots, to answer help questions. When
Right.
somebody's are trying to, we have a human who understands what that member's issue is and why they need help. So we're trying to, while we're using AI to analyze the data, we're trying to really keep the human connection, really strong for everyone we work with.
That is incredible, and kudos to you for your leadership and your ingenuity, if you will. That's something AI cannot replace, is human ingenuity.
I
There's
don't
a
know.
lot
I
of
think it's
fear
going to
out
be
there.
pretty creative. It's just going to challenge us to be. I will say I've never been more creative than trying to entertain a 5-year-old grandchild.
Well,
So
there
that's
you
more
have it.
motivating than AI.
So, so as we look forward to 2026, what
We're in it.
separate?
We are in it.
Yeah, we're in it.
We're in it.
What separates EdTech that scales adoption for EdTech and that actually makes an impact in classrooms and schools? Who's making the greatest impact that you see, and what's kind of the secret sauce? Because I have my thoughts on this, and let's see what you think.
Well, I don't know. I go back to the Tech and Learning conference that I was at last August. And I was in a session with administrators there. And I thought the way they said it, I mean, one is that some companies have pushed to raise their prices. And that puts them in a bind. So you have to be careful about your pricing, not to push that higher because budgets are really a big issue right now. And that, you want to have a solution where the teachers or whoever it is using that is going to really yell and scream if you try to take it away from them. So, you have to have something that's providing a very clear solution, clear
Mhm.
results, evidence of why it's working, so they can make a really important case that they need it or need to renew it.
Well said. One of the observations from my travels is the notion of storytelling and
Mm,
giving students agency.
mhm.
When we have our co-ops and interns here, both from high school and higher ed,
Yeah.
we immerse them in our work as
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, as digital designers, as publishers, and when you give kids agency and the opportunity to storytell, they thrive. And so tools that enable that sort of thing, like this platform, like Canva, the number
Yeah.
one most used app in the world today,
Oh,
and
yeah.
apparently they're going public. Could be this year.
Oh,
I
mm,
can't imagine what that stock's going to come out at, but
yeah.
uh, when you democratize the tools
Mhm.
and put them in the hands of the end user, be it teachers and students, and not fully in ed tech. One of the interesting things this uh, cyber company mentioned, oh, we're owned by this company that's in legal and other verticals. And
Mhm.
that got my interest because I said the top companies in ed tech aren't 100% in ed tech. Google,
Mhm.
Microsoft,
Mhm.
Apple,
Mhm.
Canva, they're not all in ed tech.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's my take on, and having launched Kevin O'Leary's learning company, School Business in Canada, 30 years ago.
Mhm.
If there's any advice I can give to an EdTech, think about that.
Well,
And
I love
right,
your use of democratization, and I haven't really talked about. I mean, we talk about what we do in professional learning in a lot of ways, like autonomy and whatever, but we really are democratizing professional learning
right,
because you have the
you are
calendar up there. It's all free. It's for
right.
any educator, and when a teacher or a para or any educator is able to go and pick what they think is right for them, that is the most powerful motivator. We do work with districts who they have district plans, they have pillars, they have goals that they want, so that they want their staff frequently to watch certain topics or even certain programs. The more directed it is, the harder it is to get the highest level of engagement. Highest level is pick whatever you want.
Well,
Pick what you think you need, or pick what you think your students need.
I love your work, and I love the fact that you're also enabling school districts to have their own private network,
Exactly.
where to help facilitate a deeper and wider democratization of professional learning.
And
Because
enjoyment too, because
right,
then they enjoy it more too.
yeah, kudos to you, Lisa Schmucki. I know you've got a very busy schedule, so I'm going to wrap this up. Final thoughts to share.
Um, just happy for, really happy for your conference and the opportunity to work with you and educators in Canada, all over the world. I think we love it when educators come from all over the world. I think more important right now in this day and age, the more that we can be kind and supportive to each other wherever we are, that will help strengthen our bonds and lead to more peace.
Amazing, Lisa Schmucki. This has been a powerful Can-Am conversation grounded in experience, community, and shared commitment to impact over hype. As we look toward the balance of 2026, it's clear that EdTech's next chapter won't be defined by tools alone, but by trust, evidence, collaboration, and human connection across
Love
our
it.
borders.
Love it.
Thank you for your leadership and the important role edWeb continues to play in strengthening the education ecosystem. And thank you for joining us on MindShare TV, Lisa
Thank
Schmucki.
you. Thank you.
And
Thank
then,
you all. Thank you,
and,
everybody.
and until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.